Hello, everyone. This is Ed Breniger, and welcome to the Eddie Network podcast. We have wonderful conversations here, and one of my favorite people that I've had on is Kristin Johnson, and she's back,
I'm back. Hello.
and she does amazing things, and she invited me to speak to the Chamber of Commerce there in Lewisville-Clemmons, which is in western Forsyth County, North Carolina. And it was
Yes.
a great experience. And I talked about what I do here, which is invite people to introduce me to people, and that's how we met because our mutual friend Ken Hooser introduced us to one another.
Do you know that Ken and I do a weekly radio show together?
Yeah, I do know
It
that.
is so fun.
He's a
We
great
do the
guy.
Power Hour. It's so fun on WTOB. But I'm so glad that he introduced us. Yes,
I
yes.
am too, and I'm really happy with the work that you're doing and the way you present yourself to your community. I think it's really significant because it what it does is gives a sense of confidence that whatever the community is going through, it can go through it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I was actually just doing a podcast yesterday on the subject of confidence, and we were talking about how it wrapped into leadership. And I told this story, and it was kind of a myriad of topics that we covered, but I'll tell you the story. I think it's really
Oh, yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
So the
Yeah,
story,
you get to sit.
here we go. Get a cup of coffee, put your slippers on. Cheers. So the story, the it was set over 200 years ago, and there was a man dressed in just casual clothes. So this person was the stranger in the story. So the stranger's on horseback 200 years ago, and he's kind of riding through the countryside, and he sees a team of men, which he surmised to be these battle weary soldiers. They were dressed in their uniforms, and they were filthy, and they just looked like they had been whipped. I mean, they were tired, and they were digging a trench. Had a leader of them who was on horseback, and he was yelling commands at these men on what to do. Work harder, work fastality, like do it, do it, do it. And this the casual observer comes, rides his horse up, your men. And he was like, because I'm their boss, I tell them what to do, I give them orders, they do what I say, and then no one gets hurt. And he said, I would have imagined you would have joined them. And he said, well, if you're so invested in this, much to this guy's surprise, he gets off his horse and he goes down into the trench and he starts digging with these men and boosting the morale as he is, because he's not as tired. He's more, he's fresh, he's not digging, and they get this trench dug. And apparently it was a very strategic trench that was a bunker, a protective measure for the upcoming battle. And so he's helping the guys get out of the trench when it was time to rest, and saying, thank you so much for your hard work, just acting very diplomatic. And he gets back up on his horse, rides up to the leader, and face to face says, the next time your leadership prevents you from getting in and actually helping your team, I want you to take it to the next level, and I will personally make sure that you have everything it takes to make sure that that does not happen again. And the guy makes eye contact with him and sees General George Washington staring at him, giving him those directives.
Wow.
So this was the boss's boss that was over everybody. And
Hmm.
he gets off of his horse and he starts digging the trenches and boosting the morale of these folks, basically poo-pooing this other guy's leadership, saying that's a dictatorship is not the way that you're leading people. That reduces the morale. And so it went into leadership, it went into courage and confidence in yourself. To be the boss doesn't mean that you're driving the fanciest car or wearing the nicest clothes or not getting your hands dirty. It actually means quite the opposite. And so thank you for your compliment on my leadership. That is how I feel about it. I feel that being a leader means being able to do all the things that are asked of anybody else. And even it's not, you can't have expertise in all, but you should have at least exposure to all.
Back 2007, 2008, a long time ago, ancient history. I
Yeah.
was hired by a um, a company to come in and help them write a values statement. And there was a new CEO of the company. And when he hired me, he had been there for 4 months and he had said nothing about his plans. He had made no declarations. This is what my leadership is going to mean. Instead, he had been building relationships. This was an electrical utility. And so
Hmm.
um, he would go out to the line operations facility in the morning at around 5:30 and take breakfast, take ham biscuits or whatever it was. He would take breakfast to the men and women that
True.
worked there,
Hmm.
and they would sit there and they'd have coffee and they'd eat breakfast and they'd talk about their families, talk about the community, things like that. They'd go off to work. He'd go home, put his suit on, go to work, and so everybody knew him as Paul, and he knew all of them as whatever their names were, and he knew their children's names and their spouses' names. And so when I came in, he had a team, put a team together of 9 people that would write the value statement for the company. And the company had had a very authoritarian leadership for the previous 20 years. And so my first day, I walk in and I'm in a coat and tie, and the union president, who's the union leadership, is on this team of that's working with me, and
Hmm.
the union president says, if you don't take that tie off, we're going to cut it off and we're going to toss you out of here. I said, fine with me. Took it
You
off.
got the scissors. Cut it yourself.
And um, and so then I asked him, I says, well, how far back in time do we have to go to when this was a happy company? And the union president said, 20 years. So what was it like back then? We were a family. We did things together. We played softball together. We knew each other's kids. And then these guys came in and they changed everything. Nobody got to make decisions. They made all the decisions. And and so um, so that's where we are. And so are you saying you want to be back to where being a family? They said, well, yeah, we want to go back. I said, well, I don't think you can go back, but I think we can identify what the values are, which can give the possibility of creating a family atmosphere to be. And so this was a 3 month long project, and I would go in for 2 month two meetings, 2 days a week, 2 days a month during that time, and it was all this kind of conversation. And the CEO Paul didn't have any role to play in this. So we get to the last 2 days, and the last day we're supposed to have a value statement that's going to become this foundation stone for the future of the company. And we didn't have one. So after the last day, I sent them home. I said, listen, if any of you want to write a statement overnight, do so and bring it back, and you can share it in the morning. And so two of the 9 did, and they were pretty good statements. And they would write them up on flip chart paper. And I said, okay, let's take 20 minutes, and if the rest of you, now that you kind of see what you can do, if anybody else wants to write one, do that. And so 3 more wrote. So we had five value statements, and I gave them each 5 votes, and they could allocate their votes however they want, all for one or one for all, each one of them. And one of the statements that had been written overnight, kind of came out ahead. And I said, so do you all like this one? Is this the one that you want to recommend to the company? And they said yes. So I sent the executive vice president for HR down the hall to get Paul, and he brought Paul back, and we hid the votes so that he didn't know which one. And I said, Paul, they've made their choice. We'd like to know what you think. And he picked the one that they did. And it it validated their belief in being a family as a company, and it validated their belief in him that he was a different person, and it essentially it meant that we were going to be okay. And out of that came a program to train middle managers in leadership development of the people at the lower echelons of the company.
Mm-hmm.
And within 2 years, the company was recognized by Forbes magazine as one of the 100 most trustworthy companies in the nation.
That's great.
So what you're talking about is really very important. And what I saw in that experience was a senior level leader
Was aligned.
was aligned with the people.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, change could happen very quickly and very positively. It was the one of the greatest lessons I learned. And so what you're talking about is really important because I don't think the leaders of, say, small businesses know how to build that kind of rapport with their people.
Yeah, and I think it all depends on who are the people. I think that's a huge thing is who are the people. If you've got people that you're constantly having to discipline, then you're not allowed to dive in with them and be side by side. You're having to be almost more of a disciplinarian or a parent. If you've got people who are always going rogue and trying to undermine, then you're having to be protective. So it all comes down to having good people that can be allocated to certain roles that excite them. If you're giving people opportunities to do things that they like to do or that they excel in, the chances of them being happy people in their lives are greater. And if you're working with happy, motivated people, then that's a big part of your puzzle right there. I just
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of people are allocated to a skill set that maybe they have because they can or because others can't, even bigger than that.
Mm-hmm.
And just having people in roles because they can doesn't mean it's because they like it. And I think that's where people get really lost in roles. And I think that's a big downfall of leadership is failing to see people's individual strong suits and their individual lights and light and their preferences.
So how does the leader of a company or a store, a retail store or something, how do they learn to see those qualities in their people? How do you come at that? And if someone came into I mean, you're the president of the Lewisville-Clemmons Chamber of Commerce. If someone came to you and said, I'm having difficulty dealing with my people. I don't really feel like I know them. What would you recommend to them?
Well, it's tricky because I think it's hard to come in and be an expert on a group of people in any circumstance because you just don't know how things have been placed and built. You can talk about this. I think one of my favorite things about conversations like this and about topics like this is they're not just relegated to the corporate world, whether
Right.
it's small business, big business. I mean, these are interpersonal relationships, these are family relationships, these are friendships, these are all these things. You build this infrastructure of people based on what your goals are, what your needs are, and then what your likes are. And from there, you need to find the people that can fill certain needs within the construct of a group. So, for example, if you break it down to like this really vanilla family, you've got, a mom and a dad and two kids. Well, you can start pegging people on who's going to be the disciplinarian, who's going to be the lion's share financial provider, who's going to be the available Uber driver, and you can start to have these constructs in your mind. That's an easier one to look at, even though we're all challenging these roles right now. I
Right.
mean, more women are becoming a whole different role than they have been historically, and the same with men, and that's good, that's okay. It just needs to be a balanced equation. So to answer your question, what I would probably do is I would step back from the personnel completely and just say, what are the roles that your company what is just essential for your company? What are the roles that need to be filled for success in your company? And then from there, I would start looking at the current pool of personnel. What does Betty like to do? Oh, she does like marketing and she is good at it. Okay, is she suited to stay in this marketing role? Yes. Well, is Betty good at marketing? No. Does she like it? Yes. Okay. Maybe we need to be looking at another role for Betty. Maybe Betty needs to go more towards social media than actually print packaging. Maybe print packaging is boring to Betty. Maybe Betty has to go. I don't know, but I would probably I would step away from the emotional investment in the people for a moment to understand what your business needs and then take your resources and start plugging them in. And then if you don't have that, that's when you hire. And in order to hire appropriately, I would focus a lot less on the conversational ability of the employee, unless they're in one of those forward facing roles like sales. And I would say, what skill sets do I need for this position? And I would go directly over that. I would just be looking for those skill sets and then put the right people in place from there. So it really comes down to building, whether it's with current people or new people. You really have to look at it in a methodical way and then place people appropriately based on their skills and on their desires. I think that's one of the big things that people miss is you have to be placing people where they're happy, because if they're not happy, you're not placing them right. That's it. They're going to leave, you're going to get rid of them, or they're going to walk away. Period. Period.
What are the conditions for happiness for an employee?
For an
What
employee,
what do they need? What do they need to be happy?
this is the
I know it's all over the map. So let's just be general but some of the things.
well, this answer is going to be a wild one, but the conditions to be happy are a self-actualized person.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Now that's hard. That's hard when you're
What is that?
talking
What
about.
does that look like?
It looks like somebody who, some people get really fortunate and tap into their, and what I call, so my disclaimer is this isn't everybody's belief, this is my thoughts, but I believe that we're all created with these unique God-given talents, abilities, and tendencies. Some people tap into them really early. My dad is an example. My dad is from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He grew up with not much at all. He has 4 siblings, had and has 4 siblings, and he was the only one to have gone to college. Well, he decided that he wanted to go to college because at heart, he's an intellect, always wanting to learn, always wanting to improve, always just a deep thinker. And he grew up as the working class. He had a paper route at the age of 10. He was always just out there trying to hustle to contribute to his family. Well, he knew deep down that he was an intellect. And so he also knew that outwardly his family couldn't afford education. So he joined the United States Army and went to school through the Army. And then through that, he realized that he not only was an intellect, he had this deep desire for medicine. And he ended up becoming a dentist through the Army. And then from there, he just took off and had a 40-plus-year career that he loved as a dentist. And so he realized some things about himself really early that set him on a very straightforward path. Not a lot of us are like that. Not all of us are like that. But I think coming down to somebody that can understand what inside lights them up, and then saying that outwardly so they can be placed or put themselves in a position to practice that thing or to do that thing or to have more of an opportunity for that thing, then all of a sudden you can be placed where you shine. Does that sound accurate to you?
Yeah, it
And I
does.
think just and you know what? Part of that leadership, Ed, is being able, as the leader, let's call the leader in this example the hiring manager, or the owner of the business. The owner needs to be able to ask questions so they can dig for answers, because not everybody feels clear on their passions, but you can tell when somebody lights up. You just can.
Do you feel that the organizational leader needs to exhibit the same sense of self-actualization?
Yes, I do. And it's going to look really different for every single person. So it might not be able to live a parallel life for the person that's an intellect and the person that's very has a very high emotional intelligence. You know, those people might not communicate in the same ways, but both being able to pinpoint that they have these tendencies and bring them to synergy, I think it does exhibit the fact that the emotionally intelligent person and the intellectually intelligent person has the same sort of drive, and putting them together, it shows actualization to me on both levels.
What is it that, I mean, you've been a community leader there in Clemens. You've been a Chamber of Commerce um, president twice, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have taken on a historic property and developed it as a center of work and community and in that.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these things you've been successful at doing.
Thank you.
What is it? How how do you describe yourself in terms of the qualities that are your qualities that that illuminate your self-actualized self? What is it that you present to the world that you are self-consciously presenting to the world as the qualities of leadership that are your qualities of leadership? That's all. It's not a very well crafted question.
It's a perfectly crafted question, but you know, the answer, women are we need to get over this timid side of being, oh well, it just happens. You know, women, I feel like, especially women in leadership roles, need to, I'm talking to myself for anyone who's listening to this too, need to be bold in what they bring. And so I will tell you, to walk the fine line of being humble and being confident, because both are essential. I think that I personally bring energy to situations. And it's not just an energy of, it's not this intense energy all the time, but it's the energy, it's the art of energy in making people feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, I mean having music at events, having lighting be done correctly, uh, being a host on top of being a leader allows people to focus on your message instead of your surroundings. So if you try to convey the most apropos message in the most inappropriate setting, it's not going to land. And so one of my favorite things about life and business is what I call bridging the gap. I love bringing people together, but doing it in a way that people feel comfortable. They feel seen, they feel heard, but it's also energetic. So if I were to summarize this into one word, I have to do two. I feel that I bring energetic hope to people.
Mm. I like that
And
very much.
And I just do, because I see potential in people. It doesn't mean that everybody's potential is the same, but I got my degree in wellness and exercise, health prevention. It was just this wellness degree from Appalachian State, a lot of exercise science based, but it really focused on preventative medicine, just doing the things that your body can naturally do before you have to start going down all the medicinal paths, really, pharmaceutical paths. And that empowered me so much into realizing that we're in such control of these bodies that we have to an extent. And people forget, we all feel like we're victims of these circumstances, but we're also, if we can empower ourselves, we're also very in control of a lot of the things that we expose ourselves to, whether that's our bodies or our minds or our hearts. our work situations. We're in control when you can be a leader, when you can step up and take control of a situation. No, I won't be talked to like that. No, I shouldn't feel this uncomfortable in my own skin. Whatever, empowering people where they are and bridging the gap so people can feel comfortable, receive messages, and go on with authority afterwards.
Mhm.
So I think I bring energetic hope to people and to organizations.
I like that because I think people are looking for hope. They want to be hopeful, but it seems like the world that we live in is falling apart or is shredding, and it's not a happy place. And people, when they're not when they feel like their surroundings are not healthy, it makes it difficult for them to give that extra effort to fulfill that sense of a purpose that they have for the work that they do.
Mm-hmm.
And and I think it's and I think there's some insidious strategy going on that is intentional in wanting to create crisis because it's a way of creating,
Control fully.
and that, you know, when I started doing this, um, it was clear to me that I needed not to be a critic, not to speak negatively or unhopefully, but I needed to affirm people and celebrate them because ultimately it's going to be the individual taking a personal initiative to create impact that's going to make the difference.
Exactly. So one of the is this is so interesting we're talking about this. So last night, my daughter Anna. So I think also being a mom has opened my eyes to some different just it's the same thing, very different. But being a mom, you're the leader of a group. Being the leader of a group, you're the leader of a group. These are all people, whether they're your children or they're not. You don't treat them as the same. But if you start to break down what groups really are, we're all just human beings trying to do something, whether that's our best or not. But it's my hope to just encourage people to continue to do their best. So I was my daughter Anna, she's only 7, she's so little. And she's so mature for her age. I mean, she really is. She's not a crier. She doesn't I just can't speak enough about this little soul that I'm able to parent. I'm so thankful for the whole thing, for both of them. And Anna, we have a new puppy. She's a rascal, and she just is. And this puppy just wants all of our personal belongings so she can be near us. And that's really why she does this. But she got a hold of Anna's favorite stuffed animal last night and chewed its nose off. And Anna was really upset by this. And so I went in and I was just laying in her room with her, and we were just talking about, why Libby the dog did that. I'm saying it's really hard to understand this. She wasn't trying to do anything spiteful to you. She was just being so loving to you, and she did something that we don't understand as loving. To
Mhm.
her, that's loving. And Anna's just quiet. She wasn't facing me. And I thought this was late last night. I thought she was kind of falling asleep, and I feel her breathing change a little bit. Okay, she's settling. And out of nowhere in the dark, her little voice pipes up and she said, Mom, I just wish I were born knowing. And I said,
Hmm.
Knowing what? And she said, I just wish I were born knowing everything. And I mean,
Wow.
just like that, my answer, because I started thinking about this from an adult context, but my answer was, No, you don't. And she said, Why? And I said, It's too much pressure knowing everything. God knows what he's doing. We know things when it's time. That to me right there, I mean, I could have been speaking to myself. I could have been speaking to my mother. I could have been speaking to my employees. I could have been, we don't need to know everything all the time. It's too much. We're not equipped for that. But what we need to know is to be able to try to understand our circumstances the best we can in that moment to move forward or to make changes, make modifications, move forward, make modifications, move forward. That's what life's about. So in the example of Libby, our dog, well, you know what Anna can do, my daughter, is she can put her toys in a room and shut her door. That's all that takes. But in the context of now she doesn't have her favorite stuffed animal anymore, now her modification has to be understanding why that happened so she can move forward with this relationship with our puppy. And she will. But so take that into bigger life circumstances. Helen Keller. Helen Keller was put in the worst of circumstances. And she made modifications and moved forward and made modifications and moved forward. And then what did she do? She changed lives. And so we got to know it all. We got to figure it all out. We're not designed for that. We're designed to be where we are, make modifications, and move forward, period.
Yeah, this is a theme that has been in my conversations with people recently about uncertainty and of not knowing things, and that the most impactful things are the unknown unknowns that inhabit our lives. I mean, they're there, but we don't know that we don't even know they exist. But I think this is where your actualization comes in, which is that's where confidence comes in that I can, whatever comes at me, I can take this. Bring it,
Yes.
bring it on. And because I'm going to turn this challenge into something beautiful and good.
And isn't that where heroes are born every day?
Yeah.
How did somebody react to a situation? That doesn't mean be reactive all the time and not be proactive. We understand that too, but you're right. Whatever comes my way, I'm either going to handle it myself or I'm going to get a team around me of people that I know can handle this with me and we're moving forward. That's leadership. George Washington got in the trench. He dug the ditch. Who knows what happened in that battle? Who knows? I have no idea which battle it was, but the trench was there. It was ready for those men, and he helped dig it, and he got out and moved on to the next big challenge. That's leadership.
Absolutely. And your daughter's going to learn this. And maybe she's now learned this because of your counsel to her just in this moment of challenge from Libby. You know, the dog eats the nose. And then
It was a whole situation.
bigger than the nose. But what she sees is something that's comfortable and precious to her. She sees it taken away from her.
Yes.
And that's the challenge. And so what do I do when I see that? I step back and say,
What's the context?
what's the context?
Yes. How can I react?
And when a 7-year-old can learn that, well, she is on her way to stardom.
When a 7-year-old can learn that, that's my hope right there, is just infusing little ways for people to react to potentially very emotional situations with logic and reason and ration and love. Then that's our future right there. I mean, Anna is our future, and that's the best thing that us parents as leaders can do, is just keep giving our kids and our employees and our friends and our families just these reactions that people want to say, oh, I want to be more like that. I want to be more like that. Because then when you do get into situations in the community or in your companies where it seems precarious or uncertain or unstable, you know what they are certain of? You. Every time. You.
What I see happening, and I'm curious as to what you think, is that we have two different contexts here. We have a business context and we have a family context. And in both of those, we have change happening, various types of change happening.
Always.
And the employees and the people that work there and the customers have to adapt. The children and their spouses, grandparents, they have to adapt. But what I see is that oftentimes the leaders or the parents are making decisions that are really about supporting them in their own sense of well-being or their own sense of insecurity about who they are.
Hmm.
That when you
Hmm.
throw that on your employees or you throw that on your children to make you feel better, you're creating a much more difficult situation than you would ordinarily have. I figured it out when my oldest was about 12 that what I really needed to do with my three kids was to begin to treat them as adults, and that I wanted them to learn how to make adult decisions as young as possible. And an adult decision was being able
Right.
to see the whole context and be able to say, this is the right way to go. And I think that's what you're doing with Anna. I can tell you're doing that with Anna because how to make she's going to learn how to see these contexts the way you described it.
Well,
And
we're all gonna get these reactions. You know, you're gonna have somebody who's wired differently than you all the time. No one's wired like you. So you're gonna get different reactions from an animal, from a person, from a driver on the road. You know, I mean, we're in a world of diversity, you know, all kinds of people, all kinds of reactions, all kinds of upbringings. But it's that what you're saying is that actualization. What are you protecting? Are you thriving in an environment of chaos? Some people do, and they love it.
me,
That's great. Okay, so me, I don't. I'm that person that if I mean, I'm a working mom. Before I leave for the day, my house is put back in order because when I walk back in, I don't thrive by going, "Oh gosh, now I have to unload the
I'm
dishwasher and do these things." It's all I try as hard as I can to protect my peace. And I'm training my kids to do that too. Now, do I do okay with chaotic people? Yes, absolutely. Is it what I want for myself and my constant? No. So then all of a sudden you're plugging in, like you're saying, you're leading people. I would not lead my family towards a life of chaos because I don't thrive there. And
right.
chaos might seem like a negative word. I'm not intending for it. I like to live a certain way and I don't like to live a certain way. I'm going to be pointing my group this way because we live together. I'm going to be pointing my employees this way because we work together. I'm going to be pointing my organization this way because we are together. So you start to place yourself in these roles.
Yeah, chaos is really just a higher level of complexity than we're used to facing, and we have to
Yes.
how to address the complexity of the situations. You have instead of having to respond to one person, you're responding to five persons, and each one of them has a different kind of emotional state. So how do I deal with that complexity? It feels very chaotic because I can't do one thing and satisfy everyone. I have to do a range of things to satisfy everyone. And
Which comes down to this. You're smarter than I am, Ed.
um, no, I'm older than you, and I've
Are
had a
you?
lot longer to learn from my own failures. I'm not. That's
Well,
it's
whatever our conversation, I always love it. That's for sure.
well, I do too, and I appreciate the leadership that you bring to our community. Um,
Thank you.
and it really is significant. And um, I don't know whether you get enough recognition for it, but let me offer some today. So
Thank you so much. So much. Well,
I will see you again,
I'm
I hope. And
yeah, well, we got to do something in the future. I know that.
yeah, yeah, we've got work to do, and it will appear when it's time.
I agree. I agree. In the meantime, energetic hope.
Energetic hope. Thank you all for watching. I hope that you may find some hope for your life and your work and your community from our conversation today. And I'd love to hear your response. Also, sign up for the subscription and for notifications so you can know when the next episode of the Eddie Network podcast comes out. And I'm glad that you're here today. And see you later, Kristin. Take care of yourself.
Until
Take care
then.
of that
All right.
lovely family of yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
See you all later. Bye bye.